The Lamborghini Countach is a rear mid-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car produced by the Italian automobile manufacturer Lamborghini from 1974 to 1990s. It is one of the then exotic designs conceptualized by Italian design house Bertone, which pioneered and popularized the sharply angled Italian wedge design. The style was introduced to the public in the 1970s as a Lancia Stratos Zero concept car. The first showing of the Countach prototype was at the 1971 Geneva Motor Show as a Lamborghini LP500 concept. The Countach was also popularized the cab-forward design concept, which pushes the passenger compartment forward for a more aggressive look. The development of the Countach was initiated by Ferruccio Lamborghini with the goal of creating a successor to the Lamborghini Miura. The Miura was widely acclaimed after its introduction in 1966, but by 1970, new competitors including the Ferrari Daytona had been introduced to the market, and the Miura was showing its age. Chief engineer Paolo Stanzini and his staff began work on the Miura successor in 1970 under the project name LP112. From the beginning of the project, Stanzini's collaborators included test driver Bob Wallace, assistant engineer Massimo Parenti, and designer Marcello Gandini of Bertone. Stanzini and Mr. Lamborghini agreed to the fact that Miura's successor required a mechanical design that enabled the greatest possible performance, as well as a body that was both aerodynamically efficient and aesthetically daring. These principles had formed the Miura's development and enabled the commercial success of the model. Despite Mr. Lamborghini's preference for more comfortable Grand Tourers, he recognized the commercial value of a more uncompromising sports car like the Miura and gave Stanzini's team permission to push further beyond boundaries with the LP112 project. The resulting Countach incorporated successful aspects of the Miura, such as the rear mid-engine, rear-wheel drive layout, along with many new engineering and styling innovations. Lamborghini's engineering team addressed several flaws in the Miura's design, improving high-speed stability and reducing liftover oversteer, as well as addressing the limited maintenance access, uneven weight distribution, and cooling issues endemic to the Miura's transverse engine layout. The Countach name originated in the late 1970 or 1971 near the beginning of the LP112 project. Most previous and subsequent Lamborghini cars were associated with famous bulls and bullfighting, but the Countach broke this tradition. The name originated from an ancient Roman language word Countach, which means astonishment. Lamborghini used a system of alphanumeric designations in order to further delineate Countach models. For the prototype and early production models, LP was followed by a 3-digit number designating nominal engine displacement. 400 stood for 3.9 liter engine, 500 stood for 4.8 or a 5 liter engine. Therefore, the full name of the first production Countach was a Lamborghini Countach LP400, which means the car had a 3.9 liter engine. As in the Miura, the letter S stood for Sport was added for later high-performance variants. This naming scheme was disrupted by the 1985 LP5000 Quattro Valvole, equipped with a 5.2 liter engine, also called the 5000 QV. The LP designation was entirely dropped for the 1988 25th anniversary edition, also known as the Anniversary Edition. The Countach was styled by Marcello Gandini of the Bertone Design Studio. His design for the Countach's predecessor, the Miura, achieved commercial success and critical acclaim from the automotive press when it was introduced in March 1966. Following the Miura's debut, Gandini began experimenting with a new, more angular and geometric design language in a series of concept cars for Lamborghini, Alfa Romeo, and Lancia. In particular, in 1968, Alfa Romeo Carabo and 1970 Lancia Stratos Zero were direct styling precursors to the Countach. Like the Countach, they were both entirely wedge-shaped mid-engine designs with a low flat front, truncated tail, and angular detail. Trapezoidal shapes appeared throughout the body, including the windshield, side windows, door openings, hood, and engine covers. Air was supplied to the engine and side-mounted radiators through lowered vents immediately behind the side windows. Although road testing quickly demonstrated that these vents were alone inadequate to control engine temperatures. First appearing on Gandini's 1968 Alfa Romeo Carabo concept car, The scissor doors of the Countach prototype were a prominent design feature. They attached the scissor door to the vehicle structure at the front of the door using horizontal hinges so that they lifted up and tilted forward when opened. The mechanism was assisted by gas struts which supported the weight of the door and smoothed the opening and closing motion. Gandini incorporated this door design as both a styling gesture and to facilitate entry. The car's wide chassis and high and wide door sills made entry using conventional door difficult in narrow spaces. Conversely, care needed to be taken in opening the scissor doors under low ceilings. The scissor doors made it difficult to exit the car following a rollover accident. Lamborghini engineers studied the solution to this problem, including an easy removable kick-out windscreen or using explosive bolt to remove the door following an accident, although neither were incorporated into the production Countach. The Lamborghini V12 used in the Countach originated in 1963 and was designed by Giotto Bizzarini. Versions of this engine were used in the preceding and then currently produced Lamborghini models, including the 350 GT, 400 GT, Islero, Espada, and the Miura. As used in the Miura, this engine had a 3929cc or 3.9 liter displacement, a 60-degree cylinder bank angle, double overhead camshafts per bank, 2 valves per cylinder, lubrication and distributor ignition. Paolo Stanzini's engineering team wishes to increase the Countach's engine power over the maximum of 374 horsepower as seen on the Miura SV. The 3.9 liter version had to be tuned to be rated approximately between 412 to 434 horsepower in the experimental P400 Iota, but an engine of this specification was expensive to manufacture and was difficult to handle in normal city driving due to lack of low RPM power. Therefore, the engineers decided to increase the engine's displacement to 5 liter in order to extract more power while avoiding the usability problems of a race-tuned engine. This increase in displacement would require a major redesign of the existing V12. Lamborghini's plan was to produce a 5 liter engine in time for series production and publish specification sheets for the proposed production 5 liter engine at the 1971 debut of the prototype. Lamborghini reported this engine would be rated at 440 horsepower at 7400 rpm. Later engine development eventually increased the engine displacement to 4754 cc or 4.8 liter in the 1982 LP500S and then to 5167 cc or 5.2 liter with 4 valves per cylinder in the 1985 LP5000 Quattro Valvole. All variants of the Countach were equipped with 6 Weber carburetors until the arrival of the LP5000 QV model, some of which use Bosch's K-Jetronic fuel injection to meet US emission regulations. European specification car continued to use the carburetors until the arrival of the succeeding Diablo. The Countach entered production as the LP400 with a 3929cc or 3.9 liter engine deriving 370 horsepower. Externally, little had altered from the final form of the prototype except at the rear, where conventional lights replaced the futuristic light cluster of the prototype. The styling had become rather more aggressive than Gandini's original conception, with the required large air scoops and vents to keep the car from overheating. But the overall shape was still very sleek. The initial LP400 was fitted with the quite narrow tires of the time, but their narrowness and the sleek styling meant that this version had the lowest drag coefficient of any Countach model. The emblems at the rear simply read Lamborghini and Countach, with no engine displacement or valve arrangements markings as it's found on later variants. By the end of the 1977, the company had produced 158 Countach LP400s. In 1978, a new LP400S model was introduced. Though the engine was slightly downgraded from LP400 model at 350 horsepower, the most radical change were on the exterior, where the tires were replaced with some thick Pirelli P7 tires, the widest tires available on a production car at the time, and fiberglass wheel arches extensions were added, giving the car the fundamental look it kept until the end of its production run. An optional V-shaped rear wing was available over the rear deck, following the popularity generated from the rear wing of a Walter Wolf Countach, which while improving high-speed stability reduced the top speed by at least 16 km per hour. Most owners ordered the car with the wing despite this disadvantage. The LP400's handling was improved by the wider tires which made the car more stable while cornering. The standard emblems were kept at the rear, but an angular S emblem was added after the Countach on the right side. In 1985, the engine designs evolved again, this time to a 5167cc or 5.2 liter engine and given 4 valves per cylinder, quattro valvole in Italian. Hence the model's name Countach LP5000 quattro valvole or 5000 QV in short. The carburetors were moved from the sides to the top of the engine for better cooling. Unfortunately, this created a hump on the engine cover, reducing the already poor rear visibility to almost zero. Some body panels were also replaced by Kevlar. In later versions of this engine, the carburetors were replaced with Bosch's K-Jetronic fuel injection system. The fuel-injected engines were rated at 414 horsepower. The European carbureted, also known as a downdraft or DD versions, used 6 Weber carburetors and were rated at 449 horsepower at 7000 rpm. 610 cars were built on this specification, with 66 having fuel-injected system. The Countach Evolution was a one-off prototype and a test-bed car built by Lamborghini in 1987. It was developed by Lamborghini's engineering team, including Horacio Pagani, in order to test multiple technologies for Countach's successors. The Evolution used a substantially different chassis and body than the production Countach, and it lacked interior trim, soundproofing, and air conditioning. It was continuously modified for testing purposes, and all body panels were left unpainted. Although there was no production version of the Evolution, the Countach Anniversary Edition and the Diablo would incorporate some of its engineering, including the carbon fiber or Kevlar composite body panels. The Evolution's engine was blueprinted for a greater performance and generated approximately 493 horsepower. The transmission was modified with a short throw shifter but was otherwise the same as a production version. The Evolution accelerated from 0 to 100 in approximately 4 seconds and had a reported top speed of 320 km an hour. Although contemporary publications mention the possibility of a limited production run based on the Evolution, the car never entered production. The single Countach Evolution prototype was destroyed by the Lamborghini factory during crash testing and no longer exists.